back into it. And what I'm going to talk you through over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm just going to set the scene and give you a little bit of information about us as an organisation. Because I keep saying to my board, we are going to be a world-class trade association. And they say, what's world-class mean? And I say, best in class. And everything that we do, we want to be best in class. And that's why we work with Aurion. Because we could pick whoever we wanted to do that business with. And what I want to talk you through is just a little bit about the quality of what we do and why we decided to work with them. Okay? Do I have a clicker? I do. Okay. I might need my glasses for the first bit. Oh. Good. Okay, just a little bit about us, who we are, what we do. Who likes cake? Who had scones at lunchtime, break time? First thing we do, we get bakers together is we stand up and we get the bread and we break it. No, why? Because a baker has to make another one, whether you eat it or not. So what I'm going to do is tell you a little bit about Scottish bakers. Then we are the largest provider of bakery qualifications in the UK. Currently, we've got about 1,000 learners on programme. I have a training team in Scotland, training team in England, training team in Northern Ireland. Nobody in Wales at the moment. That's one we're working on. And one of the fantastic things we're doing at the moment, we're in negotiations with SOLAS, and what we're hoping to do is to set up the first ever bakery, work-based learning bakery apprenticeship programme in Ireland. And we're working in partnership with the Flour, Confectioner and Bakers Association, who relate to us. Then what I'm going to do is just tell you a little bit about our training side. We work across 4 different jurisdictions. We're in a very lucky position that we can get government funding to provide the money to pay for the training, so the employer doesn't have to pay for it. But we've got 4 different regulators with 4 different policies, with 4 different sets of rules that we have to meet. And that was a big challenge for us when we were trying to develop an online portfolio which provides interactive content, but also provides an online portfolio for the learner to do everything in their qualification almost inside one of Gavin's boxes, right? And the approach that we've taken is a blended learning approach. We have a training team. This will never replace the trainers. This is the support aid for the trainers to do their job much more effectively and to do their job much more efficiently. Trying to get something which is sustainable is a big issue for us. There's no joking here. This is an investment for us. We are a commercial organisation. We are quite happy to invest something, but we're also looking for the return. And we've lots of different stakeholders who have to get that return, whether it's the learners, whether it's the employers, or whether it's us as a trade association for investing in the first place. And then just to finish off, Gavin, hopefully between the two of us, we're going to show you a little bit about what we have developed. And as Maureen said at the outset, we're on a journey. And we've just finished our first ever module as part of our overall learning programme. We're calling it the James Allen Bakery Academy, after a benefactor of ours. And we've just gone out the pilot phase. And the number of wows that we've had back as part of that pilot phase has been superb. And that's something that we really, really want to build on. Okay, so just to go through, and sorry, just to finish off, just some of our learnings. It was really funny when I seen your slides. I could see our journey mapped out. I was thinking, yes, this is where we were a few months ago. And just to share with you some of the things that we learned. I said that we want to be world class. Come back 4 years ago, I got my board in a room for 2 days, didn't let them out until I said, what do we want to be known for as a trade association? And what we did, we came up with this, we'd be a must join, must consult voice of the bakery sector in Scotland. And we put together a very simple strategy based on 4 Ps to raise the profile of bakers in Scotland, to influence government policy, enhance the professionalism, and the big one that we're talking about today, developing people. And that is a real key for us as part of our strategy. We're a membership organisation with 225 bakery companies from Stranraer to Shetland who are members. We have 500 members, including allied suppliers, traders to the bakery sector and individual members. And as I said, I know we don't look it, but we're 123 years old. We don't work in isolation. In England, there's a Craft Bakers Association. In Ireland, the Irish Association of Master Bakers. I'm speaking at their conference in 2 weeks at the Slieve Donard in Newcastle. And we try to work with each of our stakeholders. But what we did recently was we were doing some training in Cornwall. And this guy said, why Scottish bakers training in Cornwall? He says, are you lost? So what we've done, we've set up a new brand called National Bakery Training, and outside of Scotland, that's what we use as our brand for training. So our 4 Ps, profile, policy, people, and professionalism. And I said to you, quality's at the heart of what we do. So what I want to do is just show you some of the things that we've done. The year before I came in, a big thing for a trade association is your annual conference. And they used to have a week-long annual conference. You brought your family. There was a church service on a Sunday and you wore a hat. Honestly, this came back 10 years ago. And then it dwindled and dwindled and dwindled, and there 60 people at the conference, I think, the year before I came in. This year we have 400 people at our conference. And what we're trying to do is raise the profile. And one of the things that we do is competitions. And we set up the first ever Scottish Baker of the Year competition. We went out to ordinary customers across Scotland and said, vote for your favourite bakery products, vote for your favourite baker. And 20,000 of them did. And we came along for a weekend in Glasgow. We brought a few people with us, the Bay City Rollers. They gigged on the Friday night. Somebody told me it was like a Scotland football match. Mitch Turner in the red. Mitch is a judge in ITV's Britain's Best Bakery. She is the public face of it for us. Les McKeown in the middle. Pete Sidwell, who's the other judge in ITV's Britain's Bakery. These were the quality of speakers that we were having, along with Mitch. James Withers, Chief Executive, Scotland Food and Drink, looking at how the bakers are implementing the strategy which is going to drive the whole food and drink sector forward. Michael Moore, the Secretary of State for Scotland. Richard Lochhead, Cabinet Secretary. There was a wee vote in Scotland last week. So they were talking, what's the impact of that for bakers? We got these cupcakes made. Yes, no, and not sure. And we brought this guy over, Tom O'Toole. He runs Australia's greatest bakery. He's now a motivational speaker. I was told he was like John Cleese on speed. And he was. He was absolutely fantastic. Got a standing ovation. Now, to put on a conference of that quality over a weekend cost us 110,000 quid. And we broke even. We got nearly £100,000 in sponsorship from people who wanted to be associated with Scottish bakers. And that's why we have the wherewithal that we can do things. And this is what happened. Get the volume up a wee bit. Okay.
The Highland Bakery has been hailed the best in Scotland in the Scottish Baker of the Year Awards. Family-owned business Ashers of the Year were announced as victors. Over 20,000 people voted, and Ashers beat more than 100 other bakeries.
It's the best you can win as a baker from Barnum. There is nothing else that beats this. This is the best. Stevens are working with you for, Harry had you for that. It shows the best bakers come to the again, unbelievable. It's a real recognition for all the hard work our staff put in. They have worked so hard. Our sales are really growing quickly. And we have worked so hard, such extra effort, and it's really down to them that we've got this. I can't tell you how much it means to National Bakery. Thank you very much.
Celebrity baker Mitch Turner presented the awards. It makes a huge difference, a wonderful impact on their businesses. It brings a huge amount of pride to everybody who's part of that bakery, from all the different levels, whether you're working in the bakery directly, whether you're in delivery, whether you're in IT, whether you're in the support team. You've got that sense of pride saying, I work with Scottish Baker of the Year, and you can't buy that. That's fantastic.
The awards are the highlight of the annual Scottish Bakers Conference, which showcases Scottish talent and promotes local family bakers, bringing together industry leaders from across Scotland.
That's the 3rd year that we did that. And believe it or not, those 2 guys are brothers. I just want to know who the mother is. And in 3 years, we've created something that people really want to win. And we're getting a reputation for being about quality for everything that we do. Our second piece about policy, I mentioned the 18th of September, there was a referendum. We, as a trade association now, are at the top table in everything that's happening in government in Scotland. We've just set up the first ever Scottish Bakers Export Group, and we've got a number of our companies working together. We're working with Scotland Development International, actually funding members of staff across the world to try and help sell more bakery products. We've put together our first ever manifesto, trying to attract and retain employees and so on and so forth. I won't read them all out. But one of the things that is at the core of that is sustainability. And as part of what we've done with our online learning is that we have developed the first module all about resource efficiency and how bakers can be much more sustainable in the use of their resources. Our third P is people. And as I said, we're the largest provider of bakery apprenticeships in the UK. And we have to meet the funding and policy regulations across 3 jurisdictions. And in Scotland, we're a joint awarding body with SQA, Scottish Qualifications Authority, and we're a City and Guilds and ILM centre in England and Northern Ireland. This is what we do. We do NVQs, we do IPQs, we do SVQs. We do them at different levels. We do them in craft bakery, we do them in food, we do them in production, we do them in distribution, food manufacturing excellence. And we are not a school. We are not a college. I was in Stornoway 2 weeks ago at 2 o'clock in the morning in a bakery, because bakers work quite late, or start quite early. And 2 of my trainers were on the line, hands-on, doing skills training, how to chaff. I'm not a baker, but I know a couple of words. And that's what we do, because we are skills-based. And you look at an online learning program and say, how can that online learning program support the underpinning knowledge? Because there's a science to baking. What is that science and knowledge that people need to be able to know? Then what are the skills that people be able to demonstrate? And how can we integrate that all into one package? Our last P is what we call professionalism. We put together a series of services which our members use. We have a free employment law service, fully insured for them and things like that. But looking at our learning, we stood back and said, okay, how do we get rid of paper? I don't know what it's like in your organisation, but because we're developing portfolios, I've got more paper to fill this room inside a year than we need. And we want it to be paperless. And we look at it and we say, okay, who do we need to satisfy? You need to satisfy funders. European Social Fund, you need to keep all your records for 10 years. Other funders, you need to keep them between 3 and 5 years. Our learners, how can we make that learning experience much more engaging for our learners? People like Skills Development Scotland, they have certain regulations. Skills Funding Agency in England, they've got certain regulations. Department for Employment Learning, Northern Ireland, we'll do about £2 million in turnover this year in our training side. And that all comes from those different funders. And then the employers, what is the real benefit? How is that person going to be a better baker? And last but not least, our awarding bodies. They'll come along and check everything we do in triplicate. And we need to have a system which meets the needs of each of those stakeholders. This is a very simple diagram. The turquoise colour is like a TV screen. That's what the learner sees. Behind the scenes is the blue and the red. And what we've developed is an online portfolio that they can look at, which looks seamless. And I've had sleepless nights over things like single sign-on. So if you're going to get involved in this project, you will learn new words. And you'll become an insomniac. Thank you. Skills-wise is an online portfolio, which is an off-the-shelf product that we can buy, which maps all of the things that we do. Instead of having a paper-based portfolio, it'll map it online. The interactive learning content, which is being developed by Aurion, is some of the stuff that Gavin and I is going to show you in just a minute. How you engage. Clever bit. You do something in here, it marks it, assesses it, creates a piece of evidence which automatically pings into your portfolio. So the employer, the assessor, or the learner can check it. Single sign-on means that if you enter your login, you're automatically into the whole thing. You're not just into one part of it. And to me, that was a really, really clever part of seamless integration, because the learner doesn't care what the gubbins is and what's going on behind the scenes. Something to try and make it as easy as possible. And this is the first time I'm led to believe that there is an interactive content management system plus qualification system talking to each other that people will be able to get a recognised qualification for. Just going to show you a little bit of a video which we did. This was part of the introduction to it, just to set the scene for the learners. This is what it's like to be a baker.
So you want to know more about what it's like to be a baker? Let's find out. Baking is a real tradition in Scotland, and the demand for traditional bakery products is high. As a baker, you probably won't just be baking bread and rolls. You might also be making meat pies and sausage rolls, or maybe ice buns, cakes, or confectionery. Being a baker can be very creative, thinking up new products that customers will like. One thing's for sure, you'll never be bored. Most traditional bakers start early in the morning, and larger production bakeries can operate around the clock. The products need to be in the shops when they open. You can't keep the customers waiting. The bread making process starts with a basic set of ingredients: flour, water, salt, and yeast. Your first task is to get the measurements right. Mixing the dough can be done by hand or by a machine, either small or large. After that, it's very hands-on. First of all, you divide the dough, which can be quite physical if you're doing it yourself. And if you're working in a small bakery, you'll be cutting, molding, and shaping by hand. In a large industrial bakery, the dough will go onto a conveyor belt and into a cutting or shaping machine. After this, the bread is freed in a warm place to allow it to rise. The final step is to put it in the oven to bake. You need to make sure you have the ovens running at the right temperature, or they may be on a timer. As a baker, you're on your feet and working around hot ovens. You're also bedding and lifting and maybe packaging too. Once the products are baked and finished, they go to packaging and dispatch, ready for going on sale. Being a baker is full of challenges, but with the right knowledge, skills, and training, it's also very rewarding.
So what we've done, we've looked at the qualifications that we offer across the UK. We're developing 10 modules, learning modules, that will support the craft bakery qualification. That's the start of an introduction video when someone signs in initially for the first time. What we've done is we've now finished the very first of those modules that we're doing. And the first one is on sustainability, which I mentioned earlier. And we've put it out to pilot. And one of the biggest feedback that we've had from people that have been going through the program, the bosses are watching it and saying, that's going to save us money. Because it's looking at very simple things within a bakery that can make a cost reduction and can make a difference. And Gavin's going to just demonstrate some of the interactivity that we've done in the learning module.
Welcome to YouTube Road, a guide to using resources more efficiently in Scottish bakeries. Click Start to begin. We've had a few clues already about using resources more efficiently, so can we spot where this bakery is going wrong?
And again, you've got the interactivity. The bit that I like about it is you've got photographs and engaging with cartoons and the whole thing come to life, and you click on it changes colour. And it's just simple things. But you think of somebody reading a book and trying to take that information in, or listening. We're actually doing and clicking and talking and be able to get feedback then to say this is the correct answer. If it's an incorrect answer, it then explains what the correct answer should be. We also...
Your job is to help Scott to be more resource efficient at work in the bakery. Make the right decision and he can progress on to his next task. Be careful though, make the wrong decision and you might not like the consequences. Good luck.
We called him Scott because of Scotland, but our training manager's called Scott, and he's a really nice, sort of large gentleman, but quite a shy gentleman underneath it all. And he says, everybody thinks you've called it after me, but we called it Scott because of Scotland. But again, we believe that this will travel, and it's something that we can tweak for different jurisdictions as well. But again, as part of the engagement, here's some exercises that Aurion have designed. Sorry.
He notices that the lights have been left on and the tap is dripping. What should he do?
And I have to say, the first time Scott did this, our training manager, he didn't get them all right. So again, try again, it goes back to it, and then it comes up with the correct answer, and again with an explainer of why why that is the correct answer. And there's a series of these, and it tickles me because I don't know if you noticed, there's little cupcakes at the bottom, and they light up as you do each one, so you can see how far that you're actually into the exercise. And the other thing, when you complete an exercise, it assesses you, and it creates this certificate, a can't remember if we've called it a certificate of competence or whatever it is, but then that flies into your portfolio and your trainer can see that you've actually completed that. Now, I reckon I had a very sheltered childhood because I love this one. Absolutely love this one. Just drag and drop. Drag it in, get it right. If it's not right, it won't go in. You know, and we're well done. We're aiming this at level 2 for a vocational qualification. So this sort of interactivity is trying to get people to think about why they're doing it and which particular box that it fits into. We also within this have developed a series of videos, and one of the concepts that Aurion came up with that I thought was great. When we're looking at baking, how to bake is a process. But how it works in reality is very different, because you could be a small craft baker in a shop with a bakery at the back, shop at the front. You could be an in-store bakery, whether you're in Tesco's or whatever it happens to be. And you could also be in a very large production bakery. One of our bakers churns out 3.5 million rolls every week, for example. And what they did, which I thought was very clever, they said, well, let's look at the process. And what we'll do is we will put together practical examples of how that works in practice in each of those. And we spent a day videoing in Glasgow. We were in a small bakery. We were in Whole Foods in their in-store bakery. And we were in McGee's bakery, a large production bakery. So anybody, whether they work in small, medium or large, can look at the learning resource and say, yeah, that applies to me. That's what I do within my particular piece of work. Do you want to just go back onto the PowerPoint and I'll finish? Is that okay? Okay. Brilliant. Lessons learned. I started off saying that we as a trade association about quality, we want to be world class. You need to pick a world class provider. We sort of knew what we wanted, but we hadn't a Scooby-Doo how to get there. And what we did, we sat in a room with people and all these different levels that Gavin was saying earlier, all the different parts of the process, and they guided us through that. And I'll be honest with you, what they came up with exceeded our expectations, because we stood back and we said, that is it. We have now taken that out to our market, out to our sector, and they're saying, you use that as a model, you make the same quality for the other online learning modules, we'll support you. Okay. Biggest lessons I learned, though, were all around project management. There was things I learned in new words. We didn't resource it enough, and we didn't have the right person managing the project. I then made the biggest mistake where I said, I'm now going to manage it hands-on, and I don't have the time to do it, but I love doing it. So we're behind schedule, and Maureen keeps kicking me every now and again. But what we've done is we've brought in some subject experts, and they are bakers, and they know bakery inside out. But what Aurion have done, they have brought in instructional design experts, and they have brought in people where we can throw everything at them, and what they come back with is, this is what you do first, this is what you do second, this is what you do third. And the quality of what we've had back has been second to none. So don't underestimate the time involved in it. Pilot everything that you do. The more feedback that you can get, the better. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's indifferent, it doesn't matter. Act on it. Okay? That is the key to it all. And one of the things I put up there is integrate all related processes. We have mountains of paperwork. We've bought an off-the-shelf package to manage our online portfolio. We've got this interactive content. The box that it sits within, the learning portal, can host other things. So if we, for example, have processes that we can use, Aurion can actually build those in so it all looks seamless. And the more information you can give them at the start, the better, because they really love me when we're halfway through developing something and I say, can I make a wee change? Right? I don't know if you found that useful. I've tried to give you a wee bit of an insight into Scottish bakers, a little bit about what we're doing. I hope one of the things that you learn from today is how passionate we are about what we do. And if you ever want to be a baker, this will be available online. Whether you're doing a qualification or not, come and see me. Thank you very much indeed.